Okay, here we are again. It is the first week of the season, basically starts today. I mean, we had the Lions upset Kansas City on Thursday, but today is the first week of the season. So, wanted to do the last video before the games began and just kind of get that up there. So, today I'm doing my own team. So, 14th, 14th video. So, last video. My team is an absolute mess, so we'll just begin there. I'm going to give myself a D, so below average, already starting. 22 overall, Aaron Jones, $49. I think I overpaid for Jones, if I'm being honest. He was probably around he's going around basically in a regular draft round where Madison's going, and Madison went to Brian for 29. I think he's better than that. But still, I probably paid like $9 more than he's worth, probably like a $40 player. But that being said, I love me some Aaron Jones. Always love me some Aaron Jones. We're going into what? Year 7? So he's like 28, so year 7. Last year he was genuinely excellent for me. Everyone keeps telling me, oh, A.J. Dillon's going to take some of the rushing away from Aaron Jones, and every year it's the Aaron Jones show. He's just quality back, does all the things right, played every game last year, over 1,100 yards rushing, another 400 yards receiving. He had his most catches last year. He had 7 touchdowns, so actually regression from like double-digit touchdowns the previous 4 years in a row he had double-digit touchdowns, so last year was a down year with only 7. I will say they usually use A.J. Dillon mostly in the red zone, but I'm kind of comfortable with that, considering now, as we transition away from Aaron Rodgers, the Packers ought to be more of a running offense. That's where LaFleur cut his teeth under Shanahan as that. If you watch Shanahan, the 49ers, it's a rushing offense. You watch the Titans with Mike Vrabel, it's a rushing offense. You watch Atlanta with Arthur Smith, it's a rushing offense. Yeah, that's the big difference, I guess, philosophically between 49ers San Francisco and Sean McVay with LA. Shanahan and McVay are from the same tree, but McVay uses a pass-heavy, Shanahan uses a run-heavy, but they use the same West Coast concepts. So, interesting idea in that. Anyway, back to Matt LaFleur, who I dislike, never uses Aaron Jones enough. Love me some Aaron Jones, though. I think he's tremendous. I'm okay getting him because even though he's an older player, even though we're on an offense that will be rushing more, hopefully, he's consistently healthy. He started at least 12 games every season of his career. Well, he didn't start technically his rookie year, but that's more because of McCarthy. But, they keep him genuinely healthy. He's gotten at least 1,100 yards 3 of the last 4 years. And when he didn't get it, I want to say a couple of years ago, it wasn't because he was injured. They were just trying to use Dillon more, and it didn't work out very well. And he still got double-digit touchdowns that year. So, yeah, I'm just going to lock in step, 1,100 yards, double-digit touchdowns, probably around 50 receptions, probably around 400 yards. So we're going to keep going. If something happens to A.J. Dillon, we're going big time. But in the meantime, I'm okay with this. He's a back-end top 10 running back. And if something happens to A.J. Dillon, becomes top 5 running back. And this is how efficient he is. Just super duper uber efficient. So I'm okay spending the 49 on him, even if I probably overpaid for him. Very next nomination, number 23, $57, Jonathan Taylor. As we all know, so many things have occurred since that draft. So we'll go through the rundown of what's happened since then. So, since then, he's been put on the physically unable to perform list, so he's gone at least 4 weeks, at least. But he's taking a physical today. He says allegedly he's going to pass said physical, which brings up many questions for me. Number one, why did they put him on the physically unable to perform list if he's able to pass his physical week 1? That means he would have been able to play next week. Also, they're paying him because he's on the physically unable to perform list. Also, number two, it was like a tightrope procedure. I want to say he had in like January. Usually, the recovery time on that is like 6 to 8 weeks. That was in January. It is September. What the hell did they do to his knee? So that's another worry that I have. Um, if we really want to get into it, I picked 25 for Kamara. This is really what screwed my draft. We'll go into price enforcement and talking about my draft strategy later. But this is really what screwed my draft. Because if we know he's not playing for 4 weeks and he's in a dispute with the team and he might be sitting out, holding out, I think he goes for like half of what we paid for him. So maybe like $28. So, and I could have definitely used that on the back end of my team for like anything. Did not budget for this. This totally like screwed my pooch. I will say 2 years ago, he played every game. He was the number one fantasy player in football. He had over 1,800 yards. He had, 20 touchdowns, another 40 receptions. So, will I get that guy this year? I mean, I hope so. I don't really know what's going on. You don't really know what's going on. He's on the physically unable to perform list. He's trying to get traded out of Indianapolis. They have a rookie quarterback. He's allegedly now healthy, which raises questions of why they put him on the physically unable to perform list. Realistically, I just want him back by week 5, but this whole saga already is exhausting. I don't want a Le'Veon Bell situation that happened to Stefan years ago. I don't think he can't really do that, because unlike Le'Veon Bell, he's not on the franchise tag. So Le'Veon Bell, if you don't remember, the Steelers franchise tagged him. He never signed the franchise tag, so they couldn't find him. His contract didn't toll because he didn't technically have a contract because he didn't sign it. And he just waited till the next offseason to enter free agency because the Steelers refused to put the franchise tag on him again. Taylor can't do that. He's still on his rookie contract. If he does not play, the contract tolls over a year, and he's still stuck under the same contract. This year is the final year of his contract because it's a rookie deal, and he's not a first-round pick. He's a second-round pick. So obviously the Colts could franchise tag him next year. But if he doesn't play, then this year of the rookie contract just rolls over to next year. So he has to play. I'm not too worried about him sitting out the season. It's just a matter of when and for who. If he gets traded somewhere, I guess I'll deal with that. But at least he'll be playing. It's better than this. I mean, last year he was pretty good. He wasn't great, but he was pretty good up until getting hurt. So he had, he only played 11 games, and then that's what tore up his knee. Allegedly, the Packers are trying to trade for him. I think that's dumb. That would be so upsetting as an Aaron Jones fan, just being like, why? Why you have Aaron Jones? You wasted a second-round pick on A.J. Dillon. You wasted a second-round pick all a time ago on Jamal Williams. You need wide receivers, and why are we trading more picks and paying Jonathan Taylor? What are we doing? So maybe it's Miami. I would take that situation. The O-line's not great, but at least he'd be playing. It's better than this. So not great. Really, really not great. 25th nomination, $36, Davante Adams. Let me grab some water. So I'm going to run away because I'm very thirsty. Quick run away. So I was surprised. I guess later it comes out Garrett Wilson went for 35, and Brian spent 34 on A.J. Brown and 35 on DJ Metcalf. Davante Adams is better than them. So him going around that same price is crazy. He was the number 3 fantasy receiver. He was number 1 in points last year per game that he completed games in. So if we're going by Cooper Kupp is number 1 points per game, but he's an injury risk. Then the top 2 receivers are Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase. Then Davante Adams is the number 3. But Jefferson went for 57. Chase went to Ryan for 69. Kupp went for 64. And Devontae was paid kind of like Garrett Wilson, DK Metcalf, and A.J. Brown. Yeah, I wasn't planning on paying for a high-end receiver. This was more, this is, I guess we'll talk about price enforcement. This is more just like, how is he not like a $50 player? Like, what? Like, yeah, okay, Jimmy Garoppolo, I agree. He's not great. But Deebo Samuel was a top 3 receiver with Jimmy Garoppolo. Brandon Ayuk was a top 15 receiver with Jimmy Garoppolo. Even if we don't think Josh McDaniels is that great, Josh McDaniels had, like, Julian Edelman be, like, a top 10 receiver. Like, Devontae Adams is more talented than all of them. He's a Hall of Fame player. He's in his prime. So, in this sense, I guess you could say, was Dylan price enforcing? Yeah, like, you could say that. I would say I wanted Aaron Jones. I pushed for Jonathan Taylor. This is the first Dylan's price enforcing. But, like, I feel good about this, because I was just like, would I take Devontae Adams and a scrub, like, and that's my top 2 receivers over, like, 2 good guys? Yeah, I would. Like, so, because he's that good. Weird. I thought it was weird. Yeah, last year for Sarah, and then he got traded to Robbie. He had 100 catches, 1,500 yards, 14 touchdowns, like, going for almost like half of Chase and Jefferson. That's wild. So, yeah, I am totally cool with that. He is a Hall of Fame player. He's in an offense that has to feed him in a division and a conference where they have to pass. Even if I, again, don't really like Jimmy Garoppolo, what are we talking? Like, Jacoby Myers, Hunter Renfrow. Like, they had the number 1 running back last year and the number 1 receiver last year. Even if the quarterback's, I guess you could say, worse. I guess Jimmy Garoppolo's worse. He's also probably a better fit for this offense. Remember, back in time, Jimmy Garoppolo was Tom Brady's backup. And who was the offensive coordinator who pushed to draft him? Josh McDaniels. So, I think McDaniels will figure it out. I think Adams is worth it. I'm surprised he went for 36, given how excellent he is. And I'm going to take that to the bank all day. 30th nomination, $25, Alvin Kamara. I'm good with this. As Brian mentioned, Kamara's efficiency has gone down the last few years. And he is right. His efficiency has not been good. We're going to go with, like, it's 2023, so maybe like 2020. It's been like 3 years since it was really, like, genuinely excellent. Funny little thing about Kamara, if you didn't know. He's never actually had a 1,000-yard rushing season. What has made Kamara great is his pass catching. But really, once they lost Drew Brees, that really hurt the Saints. The offensive line's been okay, but, doing the Andy Dalton, Jameis Winston, Taysom Hill show has not been good to Kamara. So, like, yeah, 2020, he had, like, 932 yards. He had 21 touchdowns. He had 107 receptions. It was a great, great year. And then since then, even on, like, the last 2 years, he's had way more carries, almost 50 more carries than that 2020 season, but less yards, and he's had, like, 40 less receptions. And obviously, he's had not double-digit touchdowns, because Drew Brees is gone. So, what are we talking here? This will be a kind of a funny thing, because I don't know, again, another little funny tidbit that I picked up that I'm not sure a lot of people know. Kamara and Aaron Jones came out in the same draft class, and they were both late-round picks. I kind of see them almost like their careers kind of going together. So, in the same sense that I'm taking a risk on a 28-year-old back in Aaron Jones, who's the number 1 in Green Bay, I'm taking a risk on the 28-year-old back who's a risk in New Orleans. I'm betting on Derek Carr making the offense better. Has Kamara's efficiency been worse? Absolutely. Is the team as good as it was under Drew Brees? Absolutely not. Do I like Dennis Allen as good a basically coach as Sean Payton? No. But Kamara's still, well, I think Chris Olave is probably the best offensive player now in New Orleans. But the offense is still built around Kamara, whether we know it or not. And I think with Derek Carr is a good, solid, competent quarterback. He ought to be able to get Kamara more involved. And another thing is, like, Kamara's been kind of nicked up the last couple of years, so I think actually not being able to play the first 3 weeks and keeping him healthier for the long haul, I'm okay with that. So, do I like getting Kamara for $25 even though he's gone the first 3 weeks? I do. I'm surprised. I thought he would have gone for more. He's a better player than this. He's in an offense that's basically built around him. He's got a good offensive line. He's got a good quarterback. Now they have a good receiver, a very good receiver. They've got Michael Thomas too, but we'll see how long he stays healthy. But yeah, I'm comfortable with this. Again, my greatest mistake was paying so much for Taylor. If I don't pay for Taylor and I just get someone like Madison for like $20 less, essentially, I can use some of that money on the back end because it gets real ugly real fast. After that, 86 nomination, Justin Herbert, $10. I was surprised. The quarterbacks are going for pretty high. Fields went for like 17. Josh Allen went for 19. Hurts went for 25. Burrow went for 15. Lamar Jackson went for 23. Who did? Oh, yeah. Sorry, I'm just going through the whole draft. Yeah, Trevor Lawrence went for 15. I like Lawrence a lot, too. Mahomes went for 28. So, a lot of teams are just, like, either paying up for quarterbacks or they're, like, not paying up and just kind of, like, getting, like, a cheaper quarterback. Like, Robbie paid $3 for Dak Prescott. Matt got Geno Smith for, like, $4. Patrick got Tua for $1. Sarah got Anthony Richardson for $5. I think Stefan. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Stefan. Yeah, Stefan got Kirk Cousins for $3. So you're either paying the going rate for a quarterback, or if you had a back end top 10-ish borderline quarterback, you were essentially like just paying a cheap like $3, $4, or $5. I kind of went in the middle. I'm surprised Herbert went so low. I know that he wasn't very good that last year. He was the 11th best quarterback. But he was the number 2 fantasy quarterback the year before. He has a really good offensive coordinator now, and Kellen Moore, who comes over from Dallas, having led the number 2, number 3, number 1 scoring offenses the last 3 years. And also last year, if you remember, Herbert had like rib and like labrum injuries, so shoulder, rib injuries. So he's actually pretty healthy. I don't know. I remember Herbert being on Stefan's team and thinking he was holding on to him too long later in the year and just being like, you got to let him go. Kind of like Andre waited way too long on Russell Wilson to let him go during the regular season. So I'm not really going to do that. But Herbert's played every game that he started. Even last year, the thing that was down was mostly like the touchdowns. So he still threw for 4,700 yards. He cut down on the number of interceptions, but he only had 25 touchdowns and no rushing touchdowns. So I think he's a top 5 quarterback. I'm happy to get him for $10. I think he was probably worth around, like Jackson went for 19. Fields went for 17. We've seen Herbert do it. So him going for 10, especially when he's like just got paid, just kind of like Joe Burrow just got paid, just like a lot of these other guys just got paid. Deshaun Watson got paid. Lamar Jackson got paid. So I think Herbert's a good player. I'm surprised he went for 10. I'm happy with that. So far, I have a little bit of overpayment on Aaron Jones. Paid double for Jonathan Taylor. Got a discount on Devontae, discount on Kamara, and probably paid maybe like a little bit of a discount on Herbert. 117, I got my, this was one of my deeper sleeper picks. I'm a Steelers fan, so this was going to happen anyway. I wanted Deontay Johnson. I knew after getting Devontae Adams, after paying all that money for Devontae and Taylor and Jones, I was not going to get Deontay Johnson. I knew that. So, excuse me, we pivot. And we pivot to who I think is one of my favorite receivers coming out because I tried to get a little bit of upside on the team, and instead this was like the only upside that I got on the team. But I got George Pickens. I really, really like George Pickens. I think he's an outstanding talent. He was a first-round pick, if not for his quote-unquote like off-the-field issues. But he's also a young guy. He's only just now turned 22. He has all the talent in the world. I watch a lot of Steelers. So watching training camp, listening to things, listening to podcasts, everything that I've heard, everything that's been said is like, this will be his second year, so we talk about it. Rookie running backs, second year wide receivers, third year quarterbacks. That's when they take the leap. So this is when I think Pickens takes the leap. He only had 52 receptions last year. He only had 800 yards. I think Pickett only started the back end of the season, and he only threw for like 8 touchdowns. I think we're going for more. I think in the AFC, you got to be able to pass. You got to be able to score. So I'm betting on Pickens taking a big leap. Big leap. I don't know how much of a leap, but let's say, just to be conservative and keep things kind of like in the realm of possibility, in the higher realm of possibility, let's say he doesn't take the big leap. He takes a step forward. So if he can just be like my wide receiver 3 and be like a top 25-ish receiver, getting him for $9 I think is still a really good deal. Now, that being said, there were better deals. Terry McLaurin for $6 stands out. But if he could just have like a Mike Evans-like season, then we're good. We're in a good place. And to define a Mike Evans-like season, that's 70 to 80 receptions, that's 1,000 yards, and that's like 7 touchdowns. So that's like a $15 player. I got Pickett. Well, actually, that's more like we'll say like a $20 player. I got Pickens for $9. If anyone had bid one more dollar, I would not have gotten him because this was the last bit of money that I had. Everybody else on my team is a dollar player after this because I had no more money. But there were some guys who were targets of mine, and Pickens was near the top of that list of guys that I wanted because I really do believe in his talent. Specifically, he's a great route runner. He's really athletic, making crazy acrobatic catches. Having Deontay Johnson teach him about like reading coverage has been really, really great. And he has very good rapport with Kenny Pickett as well. So I'm betting on the upside. But even if the upside doesn't reach, if he just takes a small step forward, he'll be worth it, especially at that dollar range. So, but I really, really wanted George Pickens. I'm really happy with his selection. So now going through the team, when we're totally healthy, we have Herbert at quarterback, we have Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, we have Kamara at flex, we have Devontae Johnson at one wide receiver spot, George Pickens at another wide receiver spot. So what we have missing is like the last wide receiver slot and then the defensive players. I think that's a really good starting lineup. However, problem is, reason why I give myself a D, Kamara's gone 3 games, Taylor's gone 4 games. I guess I traded for Zach Moss. We'll get into that as the lone handcuff to one of the 3 running backs. I have no depth. It gets real lonely real fast now. So we'll kind of skip to the next player. I mean, I did pick Allen Robinson. Obviously, I dropped him, but that was just for fun. $209 Deion Jackson. He is starting today for me in Indy. Because at the time, Andre sniped Zach Moss for me, and he spent an extra $1 on him, even though it wasn't really going to serve him much because he already had a bunch of running backs. And also, Moss isn't good enough to start for him anyway. So, yeah. So I picked up, we'll get into that towards the end, but I picked up Deion Jackson. He's like the number 3 on Indianapolis. Again, he's starting for me today because I have no options. I need bodies. Neither Kamara nor Taylor are playing, so I need someone to start at running back. So Deion Jackson it is. He was all right last year. I think he started a handful of games. So I'm not expecting a whole lot from him. I'm going to keep him on the team for like a month and see how it goes. So, not great. $2.19, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, $1. All these guys are dollar players. Let's just begin with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. I'm happy he got paid by Kansas City last year. He got 3 years, like $33 million, so $11 million a year. They brought in Juju Smith-Schuster to be the zone beater. So they trade Tyreek Hill. They signed Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Juju basically to fill the Tyreek role. Juju would beat the zone coverage because he's really good at reading coverage and getting into the available slots. Marquez Valdez-Scantling's really fast, so he'd beat the man coverage. Well, Juju's gone. I don't know if you watched the game on Thursday, but even if you didn't, we have a bunch of young receivers on Kansas City, so like Sky Moore, Rashid Rice, Kadarius Toney, Justin Watson, I guess, is an older guy. Basically, the veteran is Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Also, shout out, went to the University of South Florida, so USF guy. So he's 28. But I'm not expecting a whole lot. Like last year was his big breakout year. He only had 42 receptions and like 687 yards and 2 touchdowns. So that's like a free agent. I essentially put him and started him this week because I'm like, oh, Kelsey's out. You're the number 1 receiver on the team, and someone has to get the ball from Patrick Mahomes. He sees the most snaps of any wide receiver, so he's on the field the most. But this might just be a case of Mahomes now has to be like Drew Brees, just spreading the ball around. Not terribly hopeful. Yeah, not too hopeful of him breaking out. I mean, this is what? Yeah, this is year 6, so if something was going to happen, it probably would have happened. He's never been a top 50 receiver in his life. So, yeah, I started him this week. It's not great. Not terribly pleased about it, but, hey. $226 Rashad Bateman. All right, so, as we mentioned before in the draft, there were some guys that I really liked. One of those guys, I've mentioned before, my favorite player in this draft, in this actual NFL draft, this past draft, was Zay Flowers. I think Zay Flowers is just tremendous. The best wide receiver prospect in this class. I wasn't going to get Zay Flowers. I kind of knew that because, again, I ran out of money. Yeah, Zay Flowers went for like $4. I would have loved to have gotten him. I didn't have money. Odell Beckham Jr., another guy on the Ravens, also like him a lot. Didn't have money. I wanted a piece of the Ravens offense because notoriously under Lamar Jackson, it's been a run-heavy offense. But we have a new offensive coordinator. It is Todd Monken. Todd Monken is known for being the offensive coordinator the last two years. At the University of Georgia, winning 2 national championships. Now, were those mostly running teams? Yes, because he had the talent. But before that, he was also an offensive coordinator for the Bucs when they originally had, before Jameis Winston. So, we're going way back. Under Lovie Smith. So, they were very, very pass-heavy back then. So, what's all that to say? I wanted a piece of the Ravens' offense, specifically the passing offense, and I went for the only guy that I thought I had a shot at, and that's Bateman. So Bateman is obviously a first-round pick last year, well, actually now 2 years ago, from the University of Minnesota. I think he's a good player. I think last year he was starting to become the number 1 receiver, and then he got hurt again. It's 2 years in a row he's gotten hurt. So $1 just to see, because I don't really know who's the number 1 guy. Is it Flowers? Is it Beckham? Is it Bateman? Is it Aguilar? Who? So I don't know. I don't know who exactly the Ravens are going to have as their quote-unquote number one receiver. I don't know if the offense is going run heavy, pass heavy, in between hybrid, what have you. I just want a piece of it just to find out because I thought Bateman was genuinely excellent last year. He was a good route runner. He's a savvy. I guess you could say, he's a savvy route runner, but that's not the word. He's got like good acceleration. Like Flowers is more athletic, and Beckham has always had more explosiveness, but Bateman just has good consistency. He's just very good at finding the holes, figuring things out, reading coverage. Very, very smart player. Less athletically gifted, more just intelligence. So I like Bateman a lot, but I don't exactly know what the offense is. So this is more just like, again, kind of like with Pickens, I wanted a piece of that offense. I want to see what it looks like. I'm betting on these players taking like a step forward, though this is really like third year wide receiver than second year. But there were specific guys that I was just like, I want to see what that offense looks like because I think I can get them for the cheap. So Bateman was one of those guys. $2.31, $1. Van Jefferson. Ugh. Woof. So, well, I guess we'll just start at the beginning. Jefferson's not good. He's been on the Rams, what now? He was drafted in 2020 in the second round out of Florida, but he was an older player, so he's going into his fourth season. They haven't signed to an extension, and he's already 27. So he was an older, fifth-year senior when they drafted him. His best year, he had 50 catches and 800 yards. That's when they won the Super Bowl. He was the number 3 behind. Well, first it was behind Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods. Then Robert Woods gets hurt, and then it's Odell Beckham Jr. And Jefferson's just kind of there. So now what? Well, Robert Woods is gone. He's in Houston. Odell Beckham's gone. He's in Baltimore. Cooper Kupp is hurt, so he's gone at least 4 weeks. Van Jefferson's there. The defense is really bad. The O-line's not great, so I don't know how healthy Stafford can be. But if Stafford is healthy, he will throw the ball. He has to throw the ball to someone. Jefferson's the number 1 now. So I'm not crazy about Jefferson. I don't think he's a very talented player. I think drafting in the second round when it happened, I thought it was a mistake. Now looking back, it looks even worse. They haven't signed him to an extension, even though he's on the last year of his rookie deal. So he's got to make it happen now. The Rams basically went for the Super Bowl, won the Super Bowl, and now have very little talent. I think they're starting 5 rookie or second year players on defense. So it's real rough. Their team's real rough. However, I believe in Sean McVay. I think Sean McVay is excellent. I mean, picking up Baker Mayfield and in 2 days getting him to win a game is wild. And he did that last year. So I'm hoping Stafford is healthy. I'm hoping the offensive line is decent. I'm hoping that we feed Van Jefferson. How much of that is going to occur, I don't know. As you can see, I picked Jefferson after I picked Allen Robinson, Deion Jackson, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Rashad Bateman. And he's starting over basically all of those guys. Well, I mean, technically I'm starting Scantling and Jackson, but I have more belief in Jefferson than any of them just because of the opportunity. But as I've said before, at wide receiver, it's more about talent. I don't know about the talent with Jefferson. He's not great. So, yeah, kind of just hoping to see what happens. I'm starting him, and we're going to kind of fool around and see if it works. I guess we'll kind of talk about the bench a little bit. Since I've turned over that a ton. So I put on Jonathan Taylor on IR. I picked up Rico Dowdle, who you all know about. I've since traded Rico Dowdle. Yeah, Robbie was just like, oh yeah, you're trading for a bench player running back. Yeah, I am, because Zach Moss has a broken arm, but it looks like he is the handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. And he was decent last year in the last few games that he was playing after the Naheem Hines trade. As you know, I do like Zach Moss. I actually have an autographed Buffalo Bills jersey of Zach Moss. I liked him coming out of the University of Utah. He's a bigger guy, runs more like kind of like a bowling ball, but he's pretty efficient. Um, Indy needs somebody there to help the rookie quarterback. Someone's got to get the ball if Taylor's not there. So, yeah, I don't have Jonathan Taylor. I don't have Alvin Kamara. I'm starting Deion Jackson. If Deion Jackson is pushed to be the backup behind Zach Moss, guess what? I need Zach Moss. I got to start somebody at running back. So, even if I think Dawdle's a better long-term play, which I do, because if something happens to Pollard or if Dawdle starts to be the goal line guy, then he's already better than Moss by a lot. So, yeah, don't really love the long-term implications of that trade, but gotta start somebody. I'm not gonna start the season by tanking games. Like that just sounds that first off, that's a bad look. But even more so than that, that's like it just shows how terrible my draft is that I don't even have like enough players to start like a competent lineup. Not even a good lineup, just a competent lineup. Like, oh, I have a starting running back. Oh, I have a starting receiver. Like, you're starting backup running backs or backup receivers or whatever, then your team's no good. Like, it doesn't even matter if you're hitting bye weeks. So the fact that I would probably be having to do that in week, like, 1 is just really, really bad. Yeah, I picked up, this was kind of funny, I had some fun. We went to go see the Chiefs-Lions game on Thursday, and I text Sarah, I'm going to snipe your handcuff. So I was waiting. I had a few guys. I'm always watching the draft, and I'm always paying attention to where the running back's going. What's the depth chart look like? So I was waiting for the Bengals to put out their official depth chart because I was interested to see who's where. So I know Sarah had picked up Chase Brown. He's the rookie kid. Samaje Perine's gone. He's in Denver. I know Chris Evans was getting quite a bit of the touches in preseason, but that's because Travion Williams, out of the University of Texas A&M, from, I want to say like 4 years ago, had a high ankle sprain towards the beginning of training camp. So I wanted to see, he hasn't played in any preseason, he hasn't shown up on any depth charts. Where is he? So Thursday comes about, Bengals release their official depth chart. Lo and behold, Chris Evans is the kick returner. Chase Brown might be the inactive fourth-string running back, and the number 2 running back on the Bengals is Travion Williams. So, to be honest, I don't know too much about Travion Williams because he hasn't played a lot. In 4 years, he's maybe gotten like 50 carries total. He's been like the 3rd string on the practice squad. He was like a 6th-round pick in like 2019. They signed him to like a very small minimum deal this year, but he's been with the team for a long time. He obviously knows the playbook and everything. He's actually shorter than I am. He's like 5'8". I'm 5'9". So I remember him at Texas A&M though. Good burst, decent acceleration. Not great at pass blocking, not great at receiving, but if you're going to spend the money on a top-end running back, so $56 in our draft, and your handcuff is free, and my team is bad, I'm going to go ahead and take that handcuff. So, yeah, maybe we'll see what happens. I don't know how long we'll keep him for. His talent is okay. It's more, again, the opportunity, because I mean, already he's the 3rd down back in Cincinnati because Mixon can't play every single down. And Mixon, I don't think Mixon's had played in a complete season in his entire career, if I remember correctly. Actually, I can look that up, but I'm pretty sure that Joe Mixon has missed a game in every single season he's ever played in. Okay, so he played every single game in 2019. But yeah, other than that, he's missed a game in every single season. At least one game. So, we shall see if that hits later. Another fun one, I don't know if Lauren will actually watch this video, but if you do watch this video, Lauren, you probably ought to just cut Chase Edmonds. And this is why. So again, I pay attention to the draft, the actual draft. I pay attention to the depth charts. So what happened in the actual draft? We'll go back to April. Because I always love like late round running backs, Zach Moss, Jordan Mason, who I still believe in, who I still think is better than Elijah Mitchell simply because he can stay healthy, but is trapped behind Christian McCaffrey. Why do I bring all of that up? So, in this past draft, there was a guy out of Syracuse. His name is Sean Tucker. Sean Tucker basically went to the combine, and they give you a whole physical, everything, check everything for you. And it turned out he had a heart ailment. So Tucker was probably around like the 7th best running back in this class. I had him as like a 3rd-round pick out of Syracuse. He was really, really quick. I wouldn't say fast, just quick. But he went undrafted, so no one picked him. The Bucs invited him to minicamp. He then basically goes through physicals from like May to like mid-August. Doesn't practice, doesn't play, nothing. Preseason kind of rolls around week 2, and he's finally cleared. I think he has like a congenital heart condition. And so they clear him finally. He comes out, and he looks great. Not good, great. Like, genuinely very, like, excellent. So he's pass blocking for Kyle Trask. He's receiving. He's following his blockers. He has good vision. The whole thing. So, already, so Keyshawn Vaughn they drafted a few years ago in the 3rd round. He's inactive today. Chase Edmonds they paid as a free agent. He's the 3rd string running back playing special teams. Why? Because the undrafted free agent kid out of Syracuse with the heart condition is now the number 2 backup. And if I'm being honest, I wasn't that impressed with Rachaad White last year anyway. I think Tucker might be a better running back. Now, I don't know that. The reason why the Bucs brought in Rachaad White is because he's a very good pass catcher, and Tucker probably isn't. But Tucker's a better runner. Like, I will stand by that for sure. He was a better runner in college. He's a better runner now. So, could I see him take the job from Rachaad White at some point? I mean, yeah, I could. Especially because, like, we're in this scenario, like, Jaylen Warren is probably a better running back than Najee Harris, if we're being honest. So, will that happen? I don't know. Again, I felt that last year. Did that ever happen? It did not. So, maybe the Bucs stick with Rachaad White. Maybe Rachaad White has a 3-down role and he breaks out. Maybe he stays healthy the whole year. Any way you cut it, usually I don't like to take Bucs players because I don't really believe in the Bucs. I don't. Chris Godwin, no. Mike Evans, no. When they had like all of the tight ends, no. Yeah, I believed in Fournette because of Fournette's talent, especially behind that O-line, and it really worked out when they won the Super Bowl. But, he's gone now. He's a free agent. Yeah, Baker Mayfield's not great. He hasn't been good for like a couple years now. But I really like Tucker's talent. I really like the opportunity because the Bucs are basically like a super-duper young team right now, and they have like one of the cheapest quarterbacks in football. Like, Baker Mayfield's contract is paying him less than the rookie quarterbacks that are starting today. Like, Anthony Richardson's making more than Baker Mayfield. That's how little Baker Mayfield's making right now. I think it's like $6 million. So, can Tucker steal the job? I don't know. It really depends. That's more dealing with like coaches than like talent or opportunity, unfortunately. Again, the case study I like to use is I knew Aaron Jones. I knew coming out of training camp, not even preseason, coming out of training camp when he was a rookie, that he was the best running back on the Packers. And they sat him as the 4th string running back for weeks. And you're just like, I'm not really sure. Every day in practice, he's the best. Do they ever play him? No, they do not. It took them 12 freaking weeks for Mike McCarthy to be like, okay, let me give him like 10 carries. Just 10. And he had over 100 yards. So, like, coaches like to play conservative. They don't like to disrupt things, and they don't like to trust rookies. So, will Tucker take the job from Rachaad White? I don't know. Todd Bowles seems like a more conservative defensive coach, which is why I don't really like him very much. But I like Tucker quite a bit. I am kind of tickled at the fact that he plays for the Bucs, so I will get an up-close view of him. And we'll see. But I wanted to make sure, since I have no depth, to get some running back handcuffs, because that's the most valuable thing I can find on free agency right now. And I usually tell people, hey, it's early in the season. If you're carrying like extra defensive players on your bench, if you're carrying like a backup quarterback on your bench, if you're carrying an extra tight end on your bench, you ought to cut all of that and just grab whatever running back or wide receiver that's young now. Because if one of them pops, it'll make your season. That backup tight end, that backup quarterback, the backup defensive players, they don't matter. You can replace them very, very easily. You can't replace a running back getting the opportunity to be a starter, even if it's on a bad team. So, last guy, I just picked him up this morning. Puka Nacua? Yeah, Puka Nacua. Man, I'm going to get that name wrong throughout the year. 5th round pick, BYU. Cooper Kupp's out. He's kind of like the slot. He's not really the slot receiver. He's the number 3 receiver on the Rams right now, but he's not the slot receiver because that's Tutu Atwell. Basically, on efficiency, he was the best wide receiver in the draft class, last year. But on athleticism, he's not great. So, Rams need help. Rams got to pass. Defense is no good. If Jefferson's not the guy, maybe it's Puka Nacua. Kind of just taking a flyer on a guy. So, what does all that say about my team? Again, if my team is healthy and stays healthy the whole year, Justin Herbert, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Devontae Adams, George Pickens, Alvin Kamara, I think that's a really, really good, core, 6 players. The issue is, I have no depth. If someone gets hurt, I'm essentially dead. If someone underperforms, I am also dead. You could take, other than Zamir, I'll give you an example. Other than Zamir White, you can take Robbie's entire bench, and those guys would start for me today, right now. Because I started Marquez Valdes-Scantling, and he's that bad. He's basically if I cut him and he's on free agency and you pick him up, I'll feel sorry for you. He's that bad. So, and he's a starter on my team. We're not even talking bench players. We're talking someone I literally put in my lineup. So, team's real bad. Real bad. I did not budget well. I did not budget well at all. I don't regret price enforcing because I think it's really important with the running backs, but I think I would have been better served if I had saved on getting a number 2 running back than spending on Jonathan Taylor, obviously. But him sitting out 4 weeks now has really, really killed me because I knew Kamara would be gone. Getting him for 25, totally fine. I can deal with that for 3 weeks. I can figure it out. But not having the money to get any sort of depth on the back end has really put me in up the line because I have no rookie running backs. I have 1 second-year wide receiver. I have no rookie wide receivers. My quarterback was great, but it's not really him taking a step forward. I don't really have... I have a bunch of stars and scrubs. The team is a stars and scrubs team. And the stars, some of them are already missing. So, it's not great. It's real bad. Basically, my line of thinking right now is if I can get to week 6 and the team is 2-3, I'll consider that a victory because of just how bad things are right now. I have 0 depth, and even more so than the depth, I'm starting with there are teams we'll pull up a team. Yeah, there's a team like Charlie, right? Charlie has no running back depth, right? She's starting Austin Eckler, but she has like Jarek McKinnon, and then there's like basically nobody at running back except for like Gus Edwards, right? But Charlie has Travis Kelce, Chris Godwin, Gerald Everett, Darren Waller, KJ Osborne, Zay Jones. She has like actual receiving depth. She has Watson, Mahomes. Like, not that I care about Watson. Keep him the whole year, Charlie. Be happy for you. And her defense is all screwed up too because she's not starting 2 linebackers for whatever reason. But yeah, unlike some teams which have no running back depth, or other teams which may not have the best wide receivers, like Lauren, I have no depth at all. I have no backup running backs, really. I have no backup wide receivers. There's nothing I can really trade except for my stars. I guess if you want to do the glass half full kind of look at it, because my team is so bad, I can turn over my bench and not feel bad about it at all. So if you make a mistake on free agency, chances are I will be the one who benefits the most, because some teams are so deep that they can't play the free agency game because their players are too good. That's kind of an issue Robbie might run into, because I would take any of those players on his team. Like, anyone he cuts, I would put on my team, and not just, like, pick them up. I would put them on the team and start them, like today. So, yeah, I guess if you want to go that way, I could just, like, dump players at any point in time with no real worry or repercussions about losing them because they're not good. And I guess the other benefit is I think I have more star players than a lot of teams in this league. I consider star players. I consider like a star player to be like basically a top 10 player at their position. So if we go by Herbert, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Alvin Kamara, and Devontae Adams, and if you want to push me on Kamara, that's fine, but I still think he's like just based on volume around top 10. But the point is, that's five guys who I think are star players. So obviously, I'm already running kind of makeshift because I'm missing 2 of them, but that also means if you want to trade for a star player, chances are you either got to deal with someone else who doesn't really have a whole lot of star players and needs depth, or you got to deal with me. And typically I'll overpay you for things, but you're going to have to overpay me for a star player, if only because obviously it's not going to be a 1-for-1 trade. And I don't want your stupid defensive player or this tight end that you might want to throw in, or even this like handcuff running back. None of that matters to me. I have no depth. I need players who can start. You're going to have to give me starters. If you're like, oh, I can't do 3 of them, well, then you're not going to get them. Sorry. So I guess in some sense, me being able to kind of control free agency and control the trade market's kind of fun. But again, it's not great. Team's not good. I'm going to give myself a D. I got to budget better, especially if guys aren't going to play. So don't regret a lot of it. Don't regret Jones or Adams or Kamara. Herbert, even at 10 and Pickens at 9 are good values. But if I could have just taken the $57 for like Jonathan Taylor and gotten like Khalil Herbert for like $15 and then taken all of that money and put it towards anything on my team, that would have been preferable, because all the dollar players are just trash. They're just not good. Yeah. So that's where we're at. Still, it was a fun draft. I think it's really great that like across the board, everyone else is like very, very even. So even if I'm in a deeper hole, I think that's kind of fun for me in that sense. I've only missed the playoffs once, so this will be a challenge. I don't think I'm going to win a title because the team is just bad on the back end. I'm going to suffer an injury somewhere, and it's going to I don't think it'll kill me because I'm already kind of working without a team at full strength, but it's just going to be really difficult. Yeah, I'm kind of shooting for the wild card at this point. So if after week 5 I'm 2-3 though, I did something right. But that's really not a great thing to shoot for either. Anyway, my team's fun, but it's not good. So we'll see where it goes.